few weeks ago, I was hanging out with a friend here, and we were sitting over there in the living room, and we were talking about brain rot, and just the amount of time that we spend on the internet doing really absolutely nothing. And I say nothing because I'm obviously reading something or watching something, but none of it sticks. And honestly, I'm not even really paying attention to it half the time. And I pointed to my camera, which was sitting on my desk, and I said, if I had that camera set up all day and recorded myself for the entirety of the day, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed, it would be embarrassing how much of it would just be like sitting in front of my laptop like a zombie. And yeah, a lot of that is work time, and that's necessary, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if I spend all my work time on my laptop, why do I want to spend all my free time on my laptop? And I know nothing I'm saying here this is hardly like a hot take. Everybody, I think, feels this way. We all feel like we're trapped and we're sucked into endlessly, maybe it's doom scrolling, maybe it's brain rotting, just looking at things that ultimately aren't making us feel good in the moment or afterwards, and it's certainly not enriching our lives in any way. And that's the thing, like, it's supposed to be a break. I don't think there is anything wrong or any shame in just absolutely vegging out and watching something or doing something that allows you to turn off your brain, especially if you've been working all day. So that's not what I'm talking about here. I mean, I will catch myself increasingly multiple times a day on YouTube watching a video, and I'm not looking at the screen. I'm staring up at the corner of the screen, and my mind is like jumping on to like, what should I watch next or what should I do next? And I'm not really watching. So why is it on? Why can't I just turn it off and sit in silence? And the funny thing is, like 20 years ago, I had a blog, and the first and I think really only post I ever wrote on that blog that was shared and got read by people outside of just kind of my circle of family and friends was about this. And I said 20 years ago, okay, so this was like, I don't want to say the early days of the internet, but everything still felt kind of new and exciting. Social media was new and exciting. YouTube was like this kind of brand new thing. And I was enjoying it, but I wrote a post about how I felt like increasingly I wasn't enjoying my life anymore, or I was losing hobbies. Remember hobbies? Remember how we used to do things that weren't social media? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't think it's just me though, because I see a lot of people talking about this. And as a writer, I feel like this is really the long-term effect of this over the last couple decades has really been tearing down on my creative brain. It has impacted my ability to sit and enjoy a book. I used to be able to pick up a good book and just sit in a chair and lose myself for hours. And now every few pages, I find my mind wandering, or I have the urge to put down the book and watch some video or something. Just, get back online. Even though I don't really want to do that. Why is that urge there? It is a weird addiction. And of course, it's also impacting my writing, because the last time, while I still enjoy writing, obviously, this is my job. I write books for myself and I ghostwrite books for others, and I do genuinely enjoy it, but it's been years since I've been in that obsessive creative place where you're just all consumed by it and you annoy everyone in your life by talking about this thing you're working on nonstop. I haven't had that in a really long time, and I really miss it. And yeah, I blame the internet and I blame myself for just rotting my brain too much. And I want to attempt to, unsmooth my brain and get back to that place, because I think it is possible. And what my solution was 20 years ago when I wrote that blog post, and I stuck to this for a couple of years, is I decided I was going to have no internet Mondays. And I was very strict about it. I meant like no emails, no nothing. I even went through, I think I was on submission, or my agent was reading something. Somewhere in there, I remember the hardest thing about no internet Mondays for me was not checking my email to see if my agent had contacted me, because I had something out there. But I did it. Now, I am not going to do that today because I am still a working person, and I have a policy that if a client specifically messages me, I do try to get back to them like as soon as I get the message, at least to respond and say, hey, I received this, I will get back to you. So here is where I'm going with this. I've decided to start with 1 day a week. I'm going to have a no internet day, with the exception of emails and like work related stuff, but no YouTube. I am not on social media otherwise, but YouTube is absolutely an addiction. I watch way too much of it. If I want to listen to anything for entertainment, it's got to be an audiobook. I'm not even doing podcasts. Nothing wrong with podcasts, but today is also a no podcast day. Audiobooks only. It's only reading, music, or silence. Those are my options. And the challenge for myself today is, one, I have scheduled today to be only about my books. I am caught up on client work at the moment, and I can take a day to do this, and more about those two projects in a little bit. I also, if I want a break, instead of instinctively opening YouTube or just getting online and scrolling whatever, I can knit. I am still trying to knit a scarf, you guys. I have started this scarf over so many times. It's ridiculous because I keep screwing it up, but I'm determined to get it right. I can read, and here's what I've currently got going. I'm reading The Ministry of Time, which I am not that far into. Really enjoying it so far. This book has been, okay, so I bought this somewhere on the road. I cannot remember which bookstore to save my life. But it is called Botanical Curses and Poisons, The Shadow Lives of Plants. It is obviously nonfiction. It is very beautiful. And it has just information about poisonous plants, a history of poisoning, with some really beautiful illustrations. And there's no specific reason I'm reading this other than I think that for someone who likes to write mysteries in particular, this is like a very inspirational book. And if anything, I'll learn something while I'm reading it. So that's on my list. This, I do remember, I bought at a bookstore in Carmel, California. It is actually a puzzle book called Murder Most Cryptic. If you've heard of Myrtle, I think it's a very similar kind of thing. It's got crossword, Sudoku, and logic puzzles to tax your sleuthing skills. So basically, it just, I already started it, but like back when I got it. But there's like a murder mystery. It's set in a little town, and to get a clue, you have to do some kind of puzzle. It's a puzzle book. And yeah, those are fun. Those will help unsmooth my brain, I hope. And the last thing I have is, this might look familiar to some of you if you have been following my channel for a while. This book, Coney Island Lost and Found, this book is amazing. It is written by Charles Denson, who grew up on Coney Island, and it is absolutely, you can tell it is a history of that place written by a person who experienced it. It's filled with awesome like photographs and just a history of the parks in particular. And so that's going to bring me to the next thing I'm talking about, which is what I'm going to be working on today. The biggest project of my life, like the story of the book that I have written, I can't even remember now, 5, 6, 7, 8 different versions of, is kind of like it's like a time travel fantasy thing set in Coney Island, specifically in the heyday of the amusement parks. And I loved every version I wrote, but also it never quite worked. I think looking back on it, it's because from the beginning, I really wanted it to be a big, sweeping, multi POV, many different characters of all different ages kind of thing. But because I am a young adult and middle grade author, I felt like I needed to make it middle grade or young adult, and I have versions of both. And that isn't what the story was going to be. There needs to be adult characters and also kid characters, and this is not something that is... I think it's something that I really wanted to sell it, but it was never going to be, you know, sellable or just something that I could pitch to the traditional publishing world as it exists, or even with self-publishing, you guys, I don't know how to pitch it. It's very self-indulgent. It's going to be very self-indulgent. It might have to be something that to write it the right way, I only am writing it for me. And it might not be that interesting to others. And that's okay. My goal with this now is not to get it published. My goal with it is just to get my brain and my emotions back to that state of being so obsessed with working on something. And so I'm going to be taking some breaks to read this today, and that is what I am going to be working on for most of the day. The other project that I am working on, which I am genuinely excited about, and it is something that I am going to try to pursue traditional publishing with, is the mystery thriller that I'm working on. It is a story about a woman who lives in a van, because that is something I have some experience with. She is living off grid for a reason, and she comes upon a murder at a campsite and is compelled to help because she increasingly realizes it has something to do with her and her past and what she's running from. And yeah, I'm very excited about it. I have actually plotted it mostly out. I wouldn't say I have like a really fleshed out, detailed outline on par with what I usually do, but I do know how, like, the beginning, middle, and end. And I have started drafting it. I'm only a couple thousand words in, but I feel like I've found the voice of it and I'm having fun with it. So those are the only two things I'm working on today. And I am weirded out by how anxious it makes me to think when I want a break, I can't. I can't just like get on the internet and shut my brain off, even though another part of me is very excited that I can't do those things today, because I don't know. Is this how it feels? I've never had any other kind of addiction, fortunately for myself. I know people who struggle with various types of addiction, and I feel like there is a similarity here in that you hate the thing, but you also desperately want the thing. And that is how I feel about the internet right now. I am definitely addicted to it, but I also kind of want it out of my life. And I will be very honest with you. My hope for this little project, this challenge, whatever you want to call it, of having 1 day a week offline, I hope that what's going to happen is once I do it, I'm going to get addicted to that, and I'm going to want more and more days where I just don't get online at all, except for to check emails and you know, do what I need to do to work, and actually really enjoy that, because the internet is a garbage place for so many reasons. And I have not made a video about AI because it is such a huge topic that I don't even know where to start. But the short version is, it is making it, there is a lot of good that is coming of AI, undeniably, but it is also making the internet an absolutely intolerable place to be. And it is making me feel more disconnected from reality and other human beings. And the internet used to be a place where you could feel connected. I just don't feel like it's that anymore. And I think that's what's really pushing me to do this challenge. So anyway, that was a big ramble to start the day, but let's just start working on stuff and see how this goes. All right, so far so good. It is almost noon and I have successfully spent the morning off the internet. Yay. Most of the time I spent working on the Coney Island thing. I did write a couple hundred words, like 250, that was it, on the mystery thriller. It was going well. I'm going to go back to that this afternoon, but I spent some time developing. I'm really trying to, the world building is done. It's just taking organizing, because the world building is the thing that I want to keep from all of the past versions. It's really just finding which characters to focus on and what the actual plot is going to be, because that's kind of important in a story. And I did definitely make some progress. I'm circling around something that I like, and I think I can probably figure out what it's going to be by the end of the day. And then for inspiration, I took a break to read some of this. And right up at the very beginning, in his introduction, he references the book of poetry, A Coney Island of the Mind by Lawrence Ferlinghetti, which is one of the best-selling books of poetry of all time. And I thought, it is kind of ridiculous that I don't own that, and I looked it up, and my local bookstore has one copy, so we might have to take a little field trip later today. But for now, I'm going to take a break. It's noon. Rosa and I are going to have a nice walk in the park, maybe some lunch, and then we'll get back to it. So far, this has been a lot easier and even more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. The urges to I want to take a break, let me just watch a 10-minute video, were only in the beginning of the day, and I just kind of got used to it as the day went on, oh, we're not doing that today. Cool. My brain definitely feels quieter, which is nice. So this afternoon, I haven't got back to the mystery yet. I do think I'm going to do one more little sprint and try to get a couple hundred more words on that before the end of the day. But I just really, on the walk, I was thinking a lot about the Coney Island book and circling around my ideas for what the plot is going to revolve around. It's the general conceit of it. The thing that I want to keep from the old version is that there are 5 families on the island. It's very kind of almost mob style. 5 families kind of vying for control, constantly fighting each other, etc. But time works differently in this particular version of Coney Island. So all of these old theme parks like Dreamland and Luna Park and some that I created are existing kind of simultaneously. I won't get into the weird time travel fantasy part because it's hard to explain. And I'm still figuring it out, which is why I can't really explain it. But basically, think like mob families vying for control is at the center of it. And I am trying to figure out, I know what it is they're trying to control, but just how to hone in a little bit more and like focus on a few characters and what I want it to generally be about. And on the walk, I had an idea, and it's still not completely solidified yet, but I'm closing in on that circle, if it makes sense, and I'm really enjoying it. I read a little bit more of that book, the Coney Island book, when I got back, and then when I decided to take a break, I went into this puzzle book and found where I left off, which was months and months ago, on just a crossword. And I actually remember when I was doing this one, I got like maybe a quarter of them filled in, and I was really stuck. I really tried not to like Google anything or look up answers. I try to just fill it out as much as I can on my own. And I was super stuck. I didn't know any of these. And I figured out all but two of them without having to look anything up. I did have to look two things up, it's fine. But what really got me is just now I realized it is 4 o'clock. As you can see from my giant, unnecessarily enormous clock. And normally at this time in the day, like the 2 to 4 o'clock time for me, I think this is true for a lot of people, I get kind of like sleepy, lack of focus. I'm not sleepy, but like I kind of want to take a nap. My brain kind of wants to shut down, and I didn't have that today. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder if it was because I didn't have a morning full of brain rot. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited about that. I still feel really good, and I think I'm gonna try to do maybe another hour of work before doing the pre-dinner walk with Rosa. And yeah, so far I'm really enjoying this. Something else I've been doing, by the way, that I meant to include in a vlog that I filmed some footage for a couple weeks ago, and then I just never got around to it. But I've been doing some like apartment DIY stuff. Like, for example, I decided to change the floors in my kitchen. So here is the final finished product. This stuff was really easy to work with, but I'm not gonna lie, I am not a big DIY home decor person. This was like my first kind of big project, and I'm pretty proud of myself. I think it looks really nice. Definitely an upgrade from that linoleum. And then over the weekend, I had ordered a kitchen island because I have a pretty sizable kitchen for a studio apartment, but not a lot of counter space and not a lot of cabinet space. And I ordered one of those island carts that's on wheels so you can move it around. And I thought, it'll have extra cabinet space, extra counter space. I can get some bar stools and actually sit at it like a table. And when it arrived, I thought I can probably build this in a couple of hours. And it took like, spread out obviously, but a solid 7 hours for me to assemble this thing. But I am super happy with how it turned out. It's exactly what I wanted. So I'm looking for more apartment DIY stuff. Like, for example, my landlord did give me permission to paint, which would be a fun project. I don't know yet if I want to commit to that. Maybe just like 1 or 2 walls, not the whole entire place. If you have any color suggestions, let me know. And any other kind of like apartment DIY, home decor, renter friendly ideas that you might have, I'm all ears. I like doing that kind of stuff. It's fun. So it's very satisfying. Like every time I look at the kitchen and I see the floor and that island, I have a very satisfied feeling like I did that. Ron Swanson would be proud of me. All right, third walk of the day is done, and if you're wondering what that really annoying sound is, a neighbor of mine was putting his ice cream maker, brand new, used only once, out and asked if I wanted it. And I was like, yes, I would love a free ice cream maker. So I am making some ice cream. I have never made homemade ice cream in my life, and I am very excited to see how it turns out. I absolutely licked the blender clean and it was delicious, so I think it's going to be pretty hard to mess this up. But anyway, I feel so good right now. And I only had in the whole afternoon, like between lunch and going on that evening walk, I only had one moment where I was like, okay, time to take a break. And I went instinctively to open a tab to open YouTube and had to stop myself. But other than that, I genuinely enjoyed doing these puzzles. I enjoyed reading, and I got a lot done. I didn't get a lot of words on the mystery book. I ended up closing in on around 600 words. Not the worst thing. But I also spent probably a total of like 30 to 45 minutes on that today. The rest of the time was dedicated to the Coney Island thing. And I do feel like it's starting to solidify, like crystallize into an actual plot and not just a world I want to play around in. So I'm definitely going to keep this going. I think what I figured out today is that the key is how I start my day. If I roll out of bed, as I usually do, feed Rosa and then put a video on YouTube or just turn something on to listen to as I get ready, that is setting the tone for the day, and it's not the tone I want, because today was truly just a very enjoyable and freeing day, and I feel so much less tired than I usually do at the end of the day. It was great. Definitely going to try to keep this going. If you would like to try the 1 day a week offline writers challenge, let me know in the comments. Let me know how it goes. I will definitely be doing this again next week, like a full complete day. I am not getting on the internet tonight. The next time I get on the internet will be tomorrow morning. But I am going to try tomorrow to really limit the amount of time I spend on there, pick up my puzzle book instead, pick up another book, do some knitting, listen to music, anything else. Literally anything else. So, if you give it a try, let me know how it goes, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye!